I had a massive heart attack in 1988, and I did die. I became one with the light. And then I saw a presence come off, and I knew it to be Christ. But in 2010, I had my next experience. That was a near-death experience. I was floating somewhere up in the light, and then then I saw my dad, and my dad saying, "No, go back." I was horribly depressed because I wanted to stay there. I have already made contact with our extraterrestrial friends, and I write about that in my book with John, Commander Spaceship 5 Weather Control. But now this next book is about Alora from Jupiter, and she is bringing information about 2025 and beyond, and what is coming and how we need to prepare. I've seen it, and Laura has been telling me a lot about what's, as have my guides, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be an easy fight, but that is what's going to be happening.
I'm here with Barbara Gail. She's a spiritual medium, mystic, energy healer, channeler, Reiki master. So hello, Barbara. How are you?
Hi, AJ. Thank you for your introduction. I think the first thing I want to address is what an NDE is, because a lot of people ask me, do you have to be clinically dead to have had a near-death experience? Or does it mean you almost had a near-death experience? Or, what does it mean? So a near-death experience can mean either. It doesn't mean you have to have been clinically dead. You can be on your way out. So the definitions that have been used are not necessarily, you have to be told that you are, the body is completely dead, that's it, and then come back. You could be in a coma, you could be unconscious for a while. So it's an interesting dynamic how people seem to want to know, and it's a big confusion. What does near-death experience even mean? So if you were by yourself and you had a heart attack and died and came back when somebody came home, you won't have that clinical proof, but you still had a near-death experience. And the most important thing to really bring home to anyone who's had this experience is trust what you felt, trust what you saw, trust what you heard, because it was real. And don't let anyone talk you out of it. Because people who aren't going to believe in it, they're just not ready. And you know how that works. And so they'll try to discourage you from what you actually know to be true. So I had one near-death experience where the physical body ceased to live. And I had an astrologer many years later. I want to just mention this because it's kind of humorous to me. I have a strange sense of humor. But I went to get an astrology reading, and she did everything the old way, like Nostradamus would. She did it all by hand. And she's looking at my chart, and she looked pretty perplexed, and I started to get a little worried. And I asked her, what's wrong? And she said, well, I don't understand this. I always know when a person's going to pass on. Always. I have never been wrong. And your chart shows in 1988, you died. And I looked at her and said, I did. I had a massive heart attack, and I was living in Arizona at the time, and I did die. And she threw her pencil up in the air and said, I knew it. I'm never wrong. So that's why I'm saying also trust what happens, trust your experience, because you know firsthand what is true. So in 1988, I had been born with a heart condition, and as a kid, I had all kinds of heart issues. And in 1988, when I was in Arizona, I had really bad symptoms. My heartbeat would get up to 500 beats a minute, and it was very uncomfortable. And this particular night, I decided I was just going to go downstairs and do some self-healing, because that's normally what I did. Only this time I didn't self-heal, and I saw this light coming through our bay window, it was excruciatingly bright. And the logical mind kicks in, and I thought somebody was shining their brights from their car into the window, and I was annoyed by them, and I wanted to get up. But if any of your listeners have ever experienced a heart attack, you can't move. The pain it's pretty unbearable. And at some point during this process of agony, I'll call it, the light got so bright, I became one with the light. It wasn't bothering me anymore. And I stopped trying to intellectualize what this light was. And I became euphoric. It was wonderful. I felt like I was just floating up in the light. And then I saw a presence come off into my space to the right. And I knew it to be Christ because I'd been talking to him since maybe 3 years old, or maybe even younger. He would come and visit me and we'd have conversations. And so he said to me, "Are you coming with me?" And I had my daughter upstairs, sleeping upstairs. My partner at the time was also upstairs, but I did not want my daughter waking up in the morning and finding my body was, dead. So my first immediate reaction was to tell Christ no. And as soon as I said that, pain came right back in my body because I was in my body now. And I thought, I made a mistake. Wait, don't go. I didn't mean it. And I heard him say, "We will help you begin again." And then the light dissipated into itself, but it was like a sensation of warm air blowing up underneath my body, because before this, I couldn't move. And now this warm air was literally lifting me up. And AJ, I don't even think my feet touched the ground. I was in an upright position and I floated to the kitchen chair in the kitchen and was seated there. And Christ had said, "We will help you begin again." And he actually meant it. And my biggest takeaway from this near-death experience wasn't that Christ is real, because I'd been talking him to my whole life, but how much help anyone who has a near-death experience, you're not doing it alone. There is love there with you. There are guides with you. There could be loved ones with you, and they are helping you begin again. And I received tremendous help. And part of that was at 8 o'clock in the morning, I was now alone in the house, except for my daughter still asleep upstairs. The phone rang and it was my mom. And I answered the phone trying to sound very normal. And she says, "Barbara, I just read an article in Linda Goodman's book." And Linda Goodman wrote an entire chapter about Ralph Bergstresser. And I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he made these energy healing plates called purple plates. And she had a whole chapter about it. And she said, "I don't know why I'm calling to tell you this, but you have to contact Ralph Bergstresser. He's right there in Scottsdale, Arizona, right near you. And here's his phone number." So I'm scribbling down his phone number and I get off the phone as quickly as possible, thinking, well, this is ridiculous. I'm not going anywhere. But I did it. I don't know why, but I did it. I called him, left a very brief message, literally saying, "I'm not sure why I'm calling you, but someone gave me your phone number." I didn't even tell him it was my mom. He called me back immediately. And he said, "You need to get over here. I need to help you." And I said to him, "Well, I don't think I can do that. I can't really drive." And Ralph said, "There's someone in your home. They can help you get here." And I thought, how did he know that? So I told him, "Well, just my 10-year-old daughter." And he reiterated, "You can get here. Your feet will be on the pedals. She'll steer. I'm very close to you." And he was so confident that I believed him. And Christ had said, and that light was still alive within me, the experience. And Christ had said, "We will help you begin again." He didn't just say I, he said, "We will help you begin again." So, okay, here was my mother, spontaneous calling with this. Here's Ralph Bergstresser calling me back. He's an author. He's a scientist. He's this extraordinary person. He had worked with Tesla. He's done incredible work with the government. All of this I found out later. And he's calling me back. So I did wake up my daughter. We were able to get there in less than 10 minutes. His secretary took her off to the side to entertain her. And he took me into a back room that was something out of the year 2525 or 3535, or just another planet. There were electrodes and there were computers and remember, this is 1988 and everything was futuristic. And he set me up he put pads on this chair and put electrodes on me. And this man literally worked with these electronic systems from morning till night, till it got dark out. And it was like I was completely reborn. I was a new person. I was so healthy. I don't know if I felt that healthy before we had started. And he never asked me for a penny. But what he said to me was, I'm taking you and your daughter out to Denny's for dinner. And I'm like, okay, this was like one of the top 5 big miracles in my life, but we're going to Denny's for dinner. And over dinner, he said to me, do you know you had a massive heart attack and died? And I said, yeah, I figured that out. But what I don't know is, why did you call me back right away? And this man was so highly evolved. He's passed on, so maybe he's listening to this. He could be anywhere. And Ralph said to me, because when I heard your voice, my guides said to me, she's a light worker. She has to remain on the planet. She needs your help. Help her. And then he said to me, God bless him, I always do what I'm told. I do what my guides tell me to do. And that resonated so much with me the rest of my life ever since, to always do what my guides tell me to do. I'm fallible. Obviously, I'm human. I can sort of, say, oh, come on, you don't really mean that if they tell me don't go out now. But he was like a saint walking the earth. So that is my huge takeaway from this actual death experience, not near death, but death experience, that you're not alone when this happens. There's an absolutely astounding reason for it. You need to take that information with you into the world, that there is no death, that whether you saw God or loved ones or Christ or Buddha or however this happened, and then allow yourself to be helped when you come back here. Because if they did this, if you had a near-death experience, you are being called. My knowing this is you're being called into action. You are being called to spread this information. You are on a mission now, and it's really important to fulfill that mission, that purpose for your life.
How long did it take you to understand what had happened and to find out that this was what people call a near-death experience, and that there were other people with similar experiences?
I'll tell you, AJ, I had such a crazy childhood. My childhood was very, very rough. There was a lot of abuse. And the only thing I believe that got me through it were the visitations from the realms of light that I had regularly. And so I always had a knowingness about the other realms, but I didn't know the term near-death experience. I didn't know other people were going through this. But because of my spiritual abilities, and I began helping people, giving them messages from relatives who had passed on, or communicating with a patient who's in a coma. And then after I give the family the patient, their loved one's last wishes, they always passed on. Within hours, they passed away. They passed into the light because they got to say what they wanted to. So I knew there was life, but I didn't know there were all these people, that were having these experiences. And that was astounding to me. Then clients would come and say, well, this happened to me. What do you think? And I could say, I know what happened to you. I understand. So I'm sure that must have been part of the reason why I experienced it. So I could have that empathy and make that connection with my clients and help other people to understand their experience as well.
Did you notice if after your experience, your abilities or your gifts increased? You said that you had
Yeah.
experiences with the other side when you were a kid, but did something change after your NDE in 1988?
With the NDE in 1988, I became more confident, more interested in what was good for me because I really was at a time in my life where I was going bouncing off of trying to please everybody in the world in my life, and you can't do it. Nobody can do it. And you have to at some point realize I've got to do what I'm here to do. So maybe it directed me more into my spiritual world, because then I moved to California. I left Arizona, moved to California. I started meeting people in meditation groups. I began doing trance channeling in groups. The first time I ever trance channeled, I didn't know what had happened because I'm not present when it happens. And when I came back, everybody, because we were sitting in a circle, was sitting there staring at me like, and I remember turning to the person next to me saying, did I fall asleep? Was I snoring? Oh my God, what did I do? I was embarrassed. And she goes, no, that was amazing. And I had no idea what she was talking about. So it did catapult me in a different direction. I mean, even a different state. So that was pretty amazing. I started out in Chicago, went to Arizona, and then went to California and started to meet all of these very, very highly spiritual people. And that was when I actually started my practice working with clients. But in I think it was 2010, that's when I had my next experience. That was a near-death experience, but I didn't have to completely die that time to get what was necessary. But I was in a restaurant, Asian restaurant with family and friends, and I had told the person at the restaurant, I said, no peanuts, no peanut oil. Deathly allergic to peanuts. No peanuts, no peanut oil. I don't know what got lost in the communication, but it was pretty quick, and I started gasping for air. So the person I was with drove me to the ER immediately because he said, it was right up the street. We're closer than waiting for an ambulance. But by the time we got into the emergency room, I was in really bad shape. And I was starting to turn bluish, and they started hooking me up. He told me to giving me, massive doses of medications and epinephrine and hooking me up to whatever they do. I wasn't around. I was floating somewhere up in the light. And then, then I saw my dad. And my dad was the light of my life, when he still is. I love him so much. And he had passed on. And I saw him standing there. And he had his arms folded like this across his chest. And then right next to him were these double doors. And I'd never seen anything like that before or since. But they were very ornate wooden doors. They were, oh my God, they were magnificent. But they were kind of open like this. And through this opening of the doors, this brilliant bright white light was coming through them. And I thought, this can't get any better. There's my dad. There's the light. I'm going for it. And as I'm racing to get there, my dad's going like this, go back, go back. And then the doors went like this. From being open, they closed, and there was no light. And I was heartbroken. And my dad's saying, no, go back. Well, I turned around to leave, but that's not my makeup. It's not my nature to take no for an answer. And so I tried 2 more times. I turned around, and when I turned around, the doors are open again. The light was coming through the crack, and my dad's still there. I'm starting to race towards the light. The door's closed, no light, and my dad's shaking his head no. Um, I was so depressed when I came back from that experience. I was horribly depressed because I wanted to stay there. I could feel the energy of the light. I could feel the love, the warmth. I've got to tell you, I mean, I don't advocate having a near-death experience just to experience the love that is in the inner realms. Because if you meditate, you'll have that same experience. If you have out-of-body experiences because of your meditation, you will experience that light. You will experience that love. You will know that there is no death. That's a more comfortable way to do it. But it showed me again how much love is on the other side and how much help. And truly, it was remarkable for me. But again, I was depressed when I came back. I didn't want to be here for weeks and weeks. I felt the light. I took the light back with me and I could feel it around me. And I knew the people who were waiting on the other side, but it was, no, it's not your time. There's work you have to do. You've got to stay here. There's more to do. And trust it when you hear that, or when you come back, if you're going, why did I come back to this? Because there's something really important for you to do. You're important. You need to be here and do it. I have already made contact with our extraterrestrial friends. And Stephen Greer talks, if you're familiar with Stephen Greer, he's a foremost authority on communicating with extraterrestrials. And he talks about experiences of the first kind, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, kind of like Steven Spielberg's made that movie. Was it Experience of the Third Kind or something like that?
Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
There you go, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I've had all those experiences. Stephen Greer says the fifth experience, I think it's the fifth, I don't have these memorized, is when you can actually call on the extraterrestrials and they will come to you. They will come. And that's happened with me. And I write about that in my book with John, Commander Spaceship 5 Weather Control. But now this next book is about Alora from Jupiter. And she is bringing information about 2025 and beyond. And she's been talking to me about the parallel universes that we have and what is coming and how we need to prepare. But before she contacted me, John, Commander Spaceship 5 of Weather Control, he made his presence known to me. I was driving back from Santa Fe with a friend, and one of the houses on the en route coming back had a lot of statues of buffaloes and eagles. And I said, wow, this is so cool. We've got to stop and see these. So we did. And then the woman who owned the house, came out to talk to us. And while she's talking to my friend and I'm starting to get telepathic communications, and I see a spacecraft in her backyard. And I'm getting very antsy about this because she and my friend are just having this mundane conversation. And finally I said to her, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt, but do you know there's a spaceship in your backyard? Not knowing if she's going to laugh in my face. My friend did laugh at me, but she didn't. She said, oh my God, you've seen it. I said, yes, just now. You know about it? She goes, yes, come in, we'll talk. So we go into her house and she says to us, do you want to come in the backyard and see it? And my friend turns like, oh, dear Lord, really? But then I see, and obviously my friend and the woman didn't see, there is this being who introduces himself to me as John, Commander of Spaceship 5 for Weather Control. And he says to me, remain here. I need to speak with you. So as much as I wanted to go in the backyard with her, I said, no, that's okay. You two can go. My friend thought the whole thing was ridiculous. So I'm in the living room with John. John was tall. He was very tall, kind of a royal blue color attire, I guess I'll call it. A kind of a male body type. His face was long and narrow. Light was coming where his eyes would be, but kind of like I've seen Alora now. I was trying to get AI to draw a picture of Alora, and they don't understand transparent skin. I couldn't. I need an artist, I guess. They made her very, very pale, but they couldn't make her skin transparent. But his face was not really skin. It was like transparent, silvery light, white light. And he spoke to me. He told me who he was, and he told me, "You are going to need my help. And when you need my help, you must call on me, and I will be there for you, and I will help you. And you must tell other people to do the same." So I happen to be in Crestone, Colorado. I've taken groups of people to Crestone, Colorado. If you're familiar, it's really a spiritual mecca there. Even the Dalai Lama's visited. And I would take them on retreats there, and we would do meditation groups and channeling, and I'd give people readings. Anyway, we decided to leave because it looked like there might be a storm coming in after a couple of days. And while we're coming in, my friend was driving. We were coming down this mountain, and it's pretty treacherous. And suddenly there was a whiteout. We could not see anything. I mean, literally nothing. And he's gripping the steering wheel and like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is it, this is it. And suddenly I'm like thinking of John. So I scream out loud, "John, command of Spaceship 5 of Weather Control, I need you. I need you now to get rid of this whiteout and get us down this mountain safely, please." As God is my witness, AJ, the whiteout was gone. Instantly, there was nothing. The weather was perfect. My friend now seemed more upset and stressed out than before. The whiteout disappeared, and he couldn't handle it. He wouldn't talk about it. He never would talk about what happened. I said, "Don't you want to know about John? Don't you want to know what happened?" No. Barbara, this is too much. This is too much for me. And then 2 other times. Once there was a really bad storm here in Colorado, and cars were spinning around from the wetness, the water. There was so much rain. I'm trying to think of what word to use because I'm remembering and I'm feeling and reliving what it was like. And I was terrified my car was going to go into this tailspin. And I remember, and I was alone in the car, John, please help me. And honest to God, I don't know where the water that was around my car went. I really don't, but it was gone. It like moved away somehow, and my car was fine, and the water decreased. Now, I have tried doing this with John when I hear about catastrophes globally, but I don't seem to be able to affect that. So some things are meant to be, and you can't change them. They're going to happen. But what John explained to me is that all the weather problems on the earth are man-made, not by a laser, not by a machine, not by any kind of computer, but by our emotions. Our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions are affecting everything because everything has a frequency. And when you entertain a frequency of love, that is bringing healing to you, to the people you're talking to your environment, your planet. But when people are bringing prejudice and racism and hate and war, that is causing tsunamis and earthquakes and horrific damage to the planet. So this is not God's wrath, friends. God is not doing this. We are doing it. We are responsible. John explained that to me.
You mentioned 2025. What about 2025? Is it going to change humanity or what?
Everything is not going to remain status quo in 2025, most assuredly not, because the die has been cast. And are the haves and the have-nots in this world. And there is enough food that nobody should go hungry in the world. No child should go to bed without food. There is enough wealth and enough money in the world that nobody in the world should be without what they need. And we are reaching a crescendo in 2025 where people will not tolerate it any longer. And I've seen it, and Laura has been telling me a lot about what's coming in 2025, as have my guides. And picture the bully. There's this bully energy in the world, and it's fighting, and it's going to end, but it's giving its last fight. It's trying to conquer its last conquering, and it's not going to win, but it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be an easy fight, but that is what's going to be happening. An escalation where, like from Tale of Two Cities, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It's going to be that. 2025, 2026, 2027, people are going to say it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, because the best is going to come to the forefront with some people who are going to help other people, who are going to be willing to stand up and die if necessary for the marginalized people, or for the people the defenseless. They are going to defend the defenseless. And it's going to be the worst of times, because that energy is raising and rearing its ugly head, because it doesn't want to die, but it's going to. That's a lot of chaos.
Does this imply wars?
Yes. Yes.
Nuclear war?
Well, what I had personally been told by guidance, and well, actually by the extraterrestrials that I work with, they have told me they will not allow us to have a nuclear war that affects planets around us. They will not allow us to do it. That they are here in mass. They are really here a lot. But this is important to take note of. Okay. Everything we see, and I hope I don't get in trouble for what I'm going to say, is not extraterrestrials. Our government well knows about the extraterrestrials who are here. This is not really a government secret, but people have been kept in the dark. People have not been told about it. And I have been seeing them for decades and decades and decades. So there are going to be false accountings, I'll say, that are going to be created by governments to create a global enemy, so that people will be in fear and won't dare say anything. They're going to give all their power to the governments, because the governments have to save us from this big enemy that's coming from outer space. That's not the case. The spacecraft that are coming from other dimensions, other universes, other galaxies and that are here now, because I've seen them and communicate with them, are here for our benefit. On my website, I have some pictures of these little kind of green turquoise orbs. And when I was in San Diego, I was down by the beach, and then I came back into my car, and you know how close you are to your steering wheel, and between me and the steering wheel is this face looking back at me. That's kind of a green turquoise, roundish oval face with light like John coming where I would expect eyes, telepathically speaking to me, telling me that they're here to help save Mother Earth, to literally help save the planet from us. Then years later, it took years, I had two different clients come to me, and they each had captured pictures, which I have posted on my website, of the same beings. One, I think, was in Montana by a lake, and the other one was up in Snowmass. By the snow and the ice, there was some that had broken by the water. The same exact pictures. They both had the same beings they captured that I saw when I got into my car between me and the steering wheel. And they told me they are by the water. They're here globally, and that sensitive people can see them. They locate themselves by the water. They're trying to stabilize the earth. They're literally trying to save the earth from us. What is going on here? That's why I said, AJ, people know such a minuscule amount of what is beyond what you can just see, touch, and feel. There are powers here, realms of light, that are very active in helping us. Believe me, true words are never spoken, that we are not here alone.
So do you think they will present themselves before the world in 2025 or
Okay.
why
Okay.
2025?
About, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, they had said, they started telling me at that time, if the situation in 2025 becomes basically untenable, unlivable, and I'm going back a ways here when they started telling me this, and I'm thinking 2025, that was a long time. Why are you mentioning 2025? Now we're coming into it. They said if things become that bad and that dangerous, spacecraft will fill the sky. And I saw these triangular spacecraft. They're very interesting. And I saw and I saw the modules, and then, I don't have the picture in front of me. Recently, they just showed me another picture of a spacecraft. And I showed it to somebody. I said, this is a horrible drawing. I can't do justice to it. And he said, oh, well, this makes perfect sense because this is where the propulsion would be, and this is where this would be, because he's an engineer. I don't have that kind of knowledge. He says, this is where, and he's explaining my drawing to me, my childlike drawing of what I saw. So I've seen the oval round ones, the triangular ones, and now this one, I don't even know how to describe what I drew. It's very detailed. And they showed me that they will literally fill the sky in 2025. Now, this year, at the beginning of this year, they said they were extending that time frame to the end of 2027 because so many are here. Let me make very clear, they cannot force their will, but they can influence. And they're using their influence with people to attempt to change our vibration, to change our frequency, to influence us softly, to choose better, to choose peace, to choose equality, to choose love. And so they extended that timeline to 2027. But there's a caveat to this. They told me a few weeks ago, it appears we will be here sooner than later. So there is this fluidity, and I had considered this fluidity a gift because it was whether you're looking at the Hopi Indians and the, what they have, their predictions, or Nostradamus or Baba Vanga or any of the seers who have made predictions. They always tell you, change this. And nobody says, make this a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, when I get feedback from my clients, they call me even up to 10 years later. I've had emails or phone calls who said, oh my God, everything you said happened. I'm shocked because that means I'm giving information as it is seen now. If you don't like it, do something to change it. Don't allow this to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. But when they tell me everything happened, it means they didn't alter anything. Well, on Earth, we're having an opportunity to make alterations, and we are so capable of such good. We are capable of so much love and beauty and art and music. We could go that way instead. So what we have to do now is we have to choose literally to take a stand for what is good and what is holy and what is love. If we want to change this, like guidance said, sooner instead of later.
So what should we do to prepare ourselves for 2025 and for this change?
On my Facebook page, Barbara Gail, I have been suggesting, then directing, then guiding. Now I think I'm begging and I'm imploring people to use prayer and meditation, to change your frequency, to change your vibration, to be able to hear those. I don't like calling them extraterrestrials because I have names for them, but I meditate an hour to an hour and a half twice a day, so I can hear what Alora of Jupiter is telling me. So I can hear what John, Commander Spaceship 5 for Weather Control, is telling me. So I can hear my guides who are talking to me, literally guiding me, directing me. I mean, how do you not want to know? How do you not want to have guidance from higher knowledge? Now, there are people like me who are giving information, and guidance has spoken to me of the confusion on this planet, that people have been walking around saying, I don't know what the truth is. I don't know what the truth is. Well, I've got a litmus test for what the truth is. If what someone is saying is life supporting, if it's life nurturing, then you're on the right track with them. If what they're saying is not life supporting, is not life nurturing for everybody, no matter what color you are, no matter what religion you are, then that is not the way to go. That's the litmus test. It's really easy. So there's not a hard line here that you can't see. Okay, so in the afterlife, there is equality. Everyone is given the same opportunity for healing. Everyone is given the same opportunity for redemption. There is equality. And here on Earth, we have created these ridiculous caste systems based on your education, based on the color of your skin, based on, your religion, based on how much money you have or don't have. All of these things are temporary. You don't take any of it with you when you cross over. So I could tell you, sure, buy things now that there may be a tariff on in China that you're not going to be able to get. Or God forbid, if this tariff actually goes through with Canada, I buy a lot of vitamins from a product from Canada, the Now vitamins. Buy your vitamins now from Canada. Have things available on hand that you might need that you can't get later. But if you meditate, if you use prayer and meditation, you will know what to do, because you won't always have Barbara or someone like me at your disposal at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Saying, yeah, you know what? You need to get a generator. So this is the best thing that you can do for yourself. Choose love, choose empathy, choose compassion, choose prayer, choose meditation. Then you know what to do, where to be.
How can people contact you, reach you?
Okay. Sure, my website, Answers, ANSWERS, answersfromthelight.com. My Facebook page is Barbara Gail. My email is JC, the number 4 light, like Jesus Christ for light, at gmail.com. And any of those ways would get through to me. I'm on YouTube at Spiritual Medium, Barbara Gail at Spiritual Medium. So yeah, you can Google me, Barbara Gail, Spiritual Medium.
Well, thank you. I hope we can have another conversation.
Happy holidays to all of your listeners. Happy holidays, and try to still maintain a Happy New Year sense, because there is still choice and you can choose love in the new year. Thank you.
This has been the A.J. Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.